Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to another episode of Muslimi Meets. We're honored to be joined by a wonderful guest who actually holds the record for the most appearances so far on Muslimi Meets. My dear friend Sheikh Ammar Alshukry, who's joining us here live in Toronto. We also have my co-anchors for today, Sister Idil Khair and Ashley Pearson Khan, joining us for a really important discussion all around Salah. Sheikh Ammar, how are you doing?
Alhamdulillah. First of all, it's a pleasure to be with you on another Muslimi interview.
First of all, hold on. Do you remember our first Muslimi interview was just an iPhone?
I remember that.
It was the
We've
first
come
one.
such a long way.
We've graduated.
Buna was shocked that I had a microphone in my bag. He's like, let's do an interview.
We hijacked his
made no
microphones.
sense.
We used
Ah.
it the rest of the evening.
Yeah, we just stole
Exactly.
your equipment from
You know what I was saying?
and then after that, alhamdulillah, we got a little bit better, and now look at this.
Not
we made
bad.
it.
It's all my. It's all. Look at this. Now we got multiple cameras.
Look at this.
We got
Yeah.
multiple mics.
We're a long
We
way
got
from
a-
Africa,
we got-
brother. We did it, man. We
We
did
got
it.
a,
You know what
a
I'm
big
saying?
backdrop. Alhamdulillah.
That's it. We got colors. You know,
I'm just happy to be with you guys on another interview. Inshallah, looking forward to the next one in a couple of
Alhamdulillah.
weeks.
Yeah, and then this probably will never come out either way.
You know
so
what
it's
I'm saying?
fine.
So
Yeah,
Buna
yeah.
just keeps getting me to sit down, record, and then he never looks at it again.
There you go. But you know what? It's great to have you here. Of course, we know you have a new course with
Yes,
the Maghrib
sir.
Institute, Mindful Salah. Talk to us a little bit about the importance of why this topic, you felt you had to devote an entire course to it.
Well, the first thing that a person's going to be asked about is the salah. And when Allah describes the believers, He says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, successful are the believers. First thing He says is those who are mindful in their prayers. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. And really, I'm very selfish when it comes to picking courses. I pick courses based on what I want to actually work on for myself.
Oh, wow.
So I had the names of Allah. I wanted to work on that. Then I wanted to work on sins. So I created a course called The Venom and the Serum, which is a study of sin. And then the next thing was my own prayer. I wanted to really delve into the topic of having a better prayer. Like, how do you
SubhanAllah.
pray a prayer that you actually enjoy? And I'll never forget, and I'm not going to turn this into a khutbah, Ashley. I'm just letting you know.
This is becoming a monologue.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fine.
It's
You know,
story time.
which one is my monologue?
This
We're
one
all
right
listening
here.
intently.
Yeah, exactly.
Take your time. It's all good.
No, I just remember a convert one time we were talking about khushu', like mindfulness in prayer, and there was this convert who came up to me, and he was recently Muslim, and he was like, "What's wrong with my prayer?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Everything that you're talking about, distractions and stuff like that." He's like, "I don't have any of that." He was like, "When I enter into the salah," he was like, "Everything in the world disappears, and it's just me and Allah."
Wow.
And I'm most alive when I'm in my salah. Every time outside, I'm like, I'm a shell of myself. So he's like, "So what's wrong with my prayer?" I was like, "Dude, there's nothing wrong with your prayer." I was like, "Your prayer is like the type that we're trying to."
He should be teaching
I
the
wish
course.
I had that problem.
I was
Should've
like, "You're not
hired him.
getting it," But alhamdulillah, like, just being able to go through that process where you can really make it the salah something that you look forward to and that you enjoy. So that's what we created a whole course for. Yeah.
One more question before the sisters jump in. One thing that I notice a lot of times as a person who, in the last 2 years, it was hard to go to the masjid. Many people were locked in, especially in Canada. We were locked up,
Yeah.
right? Do you see a difference in the khushu' you have in a jama'ah when you're praying behind an imam versus... Because I prefer to not lead. I always prefer to be behind because I feel like I have more khushu'. I feel like I'm able to focus more on the salah. Do you find that to be the case as well for yourself?
So what's beautiful is that in the course we go over like 26 different type of tips, and for everybody, different things will affect their khushu'. Different things will make them more mindful, and so it's not a one size fits all. You tailor. So for you, maybe praying behind a person is what really makes you feel comfortable because you pray behind someone whose recitation you enjoy, and then there are other people who feel more when they're actually leading themselves or when they're by themselves. Some people dressing really well makes them have more khushu'. Some people smelling really nice, put on the best perfume, makes them have khushu'. And so some people feel good when they look good. And for some people, they don't really care about the way that they look, They're comfortable, they find their mindfulness in other things. So for everybody, it's their own personal experiment. You take the ingredients and you make your own recipe. It's just like the food that you like. People like different things. For us, the salat was made for you to have your own personal experience.
I think that's amazing. I feel like, when it comes to everything that you're talking about, I think it also comes down to the personal connection that you have with Allah. Everyone, wants to be religious, quote unquote, but I feel like, once you grow older and the more tests and trials you go through in life, you realize that your relationship with Allah has to be super personal. And the more personal your relationship with Allah gets, the more that your khushu' gets stronger. And so I feel like people think that khushu' comes from like a strategy or like a structured thing. And I think that it's more of a connection thing. So do you feel like people have like more of an issue with connection in general in their life? And that once they fix that issue, is that what helps them with their khushu' and being mindful?
So that's a huge discussion, and it's a really important one because you're absolutely right. We live in a time of incredible distraction. So one of the things that we try to resolve in the course is, how do you learn to be present in conversations with people in the first place?
Exactly.
Because if you learn presence with people, those same muscles you can use in the salah to be present. So right now, for example, we live in a time and place where the salah might be the only time in your day where you don't have your phone on you. Even when people go to the bathroom, they still have their phone. And so people go to sleep watching videos. There might be literally not a single minute in a person's day where they're not having their phone. And that salah forces you, it's like a one time. And so if a person is distracted throughout the day outside of it, then when they go into the salah, they don't really know how to actually deal with a conversation. And even when people talk to other people, you see people go out to lunch together, they're on their phones. People are talking to somebody and they're on their phone. And so learning to just be present in conversations with people, learning to not take advantage of the moments that you have with people will also teach you to not take advantage of the moments that you have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the advice the Prophet gives. He said, pray the prayer of somebody, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of someone who's bidding farewell. So if you don't take the salah for granted, you'll pray a better prayer.
So a lot of what you've talked about is people already going to prayer. But what advice do you give people who just can't seem to get up and go, whether they're just, mentally and emotionally just feeling down, and they hear the adhan and they're just like, I want to get up and go pray, but they just feel like they don't have the energy, or someone has just strayed so far they don't pay attention anymore. They don't hear an adhan and they're just not paying attention to the time. What advice do you give them?
So there's two aspects. That's a great question. If a person reaches the level of, for example, depression, where like they're clinically depressed, that's one level. If a person reaches they're just incredibly sad, or they're incredibly, like you mentioned, completely unenergized when it comes to the salah, then you have to realize that and even for the person who's clinically depressed, you have to realize that going to therapy is part of your journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that moment. That for me to go and sit and work through these problems, that is me positioning myself to have a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's part of my relationship with Allah. I don't look at therapy as like something that's like, it's not important if I do it. No, at that point in time, I have to go to therapy because this is affecting my ability to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So going through that process and realizing that that's part of your journey to Allah. And then when it comes to a person just, I kind of forget, then there are other techniques that a person can have. One of them is, listen, if I have the new year is coming, and I know that for those of you who are watching this, you're probably gonna, this might be released in August of 2023. So
2025.
If you're lucky.
2025. So whatever
Global warming,
everything's
everything.
gone.
There's no more weather.
So, but there's a new year coming. People have new resolutions. So if I have a resolution, there's something that I want to do, and it's really hard for me to do. Losing weight is really hard for me to do. Getting in shape. What do I do? Like, what are the steps that I would take? What do you think?
Probably gonna make a list. You're gonna be like, this is
Okay,
what I
I'm
need
gonna
to
make
do.
a list.
Dua.
I'm gonna make dua for it.
Yeah.
I'll probably try to get some sort of accountability partner. I'll get a trainer.
That's right.
I'll let a group know this
get
is
a
my
coach,
goal,
yeah.
right? I'll join a team of people
right.
doing it. And so when it comes to our spiritual, a lot of times the way that shaitan attacks us is by making us feel like this is something that I have to do individually. I'm not supposed to tell anybody else. I'm not supposed to No, if you're Allah says, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى, assist each other. And so the thing that is greatest for me to assist my brother or sister is in them praying. And so let me tell my friends, I have a goal. My goal is to pray my 5 for the next month. Right? If it's Ramadan that's around the corner, let me take advantage of the heightened spirituality of Ramadan and say, you know what? And tell people, this is my goal. Guys, hold me accountable.
Exactly.
Hold me accountable to this. Help me in it.
Yeah, it takes
right?
a village.
Yeah, it takes a village. And so I remember myself when I was 13 years old, I had a problem with salah in the sense that I didn't have a problem in the sense that I actively avoided it, but I didn't remember it.
Okay.
And so I would pray Fajr and then skip Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib. And then my uncle would be like, you want to go to Isha? I'm like, sure. And then
Yeah,
I'd
why
go.
not?
I wasn't like the kid that ran away from the Salah.
Yeah.
But I just, whatever. If I remember. And so I remember one of my uncles teasing me. He's like, Ammar will not pray Dhuhr, Fajr, Asr, Maghrib. And then you tell him to go to Isha in the masjid and he'll go with you. He's like, what kind of guy is this?
He's an
Yeah,
Isha guy.
yeah,
He's
Isha
a
guy.
nighttime guy only.
Yeah.
So then I remember one time I was telling a friend of mine, and he was much wiser than me. He was 14. He was like the
Like a
sage.
whole year.
Man, subhanallah. But guess what? And any young people listening, just because you're young doesn't mean that you can't benefit people. Like
Exactly.
he was 14, but he was the wisest 14-year-old. So I remember asking him, I was like, yo, I have a problem with that. He's like, listen, do this. He was like, pray for 30 days straight. He's like, pray your salah for 30 days straight. He's like, you're not going to be able to go to sleep without doing it. And we didn't know like it takes 27 days to form a habit and all these. But he was just, he said, do it. And so Ramadan was around the corner. I prayed for those, 30 days straight. I took advantage of Ramadan. And then alhamdulillah, I've been praying ever since. But just taking advantage of making a goal, going for 30 days, and inshallah, you'll anchor yourself.
I think that's interesting, actually. The fact that you were saying, it was a thing that, you were okay with doing. It's not that you were saying, I don't want it, but it's the fact that you didn't have a healthy attachment or like a more productive attachment to the salah thing. And I feel like, in the work that I do with human behavior and young children, I feel like everything's really from your childhood. So I feel like, at a younger age, if you are, more inclined to maybe having parents or, people telling you, hey, you know what, have a relationship with Allah, be somebody who's mindful. I don't think it's something that just comes on, out of nowhere. I think it takes discipline and it takes training. And as you said, it takes some time to form that habit. What do you say to the parents that are raising young children now? Because I think those are the young ones that we can change,
Yeah, so I've read, in preparing for this course, there's a couple of great books that are currently out. But one of the challenges with parents is that we tell kids to pay attention and no one ever tells them how to pay attention.
How to pay attention.
Just pay attention. What's wrong with you? And so there's a book called Stolen Focus, recently published. The author did this incredible research on all of the reasons why people can't pay attention. Everything from our sleep affects our ability to focus the next day, our ability to pay attention, to the food that we eat affects our ability to pay attention and focus. And these are things that parents actually influence. You influence the food that you give your child. You influence the sleep patterns of your child. That's something that you have control over. And then to the idea of, obviously this is the low-hanging fruit, but it's very important, their attachment to devices.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And
It's the screen time.
So their attachment to devices affects their ability to pay attention. And so, there's another great book by an author named Cal Newport called Digital Minimalism that I just completed reading, and it was great. And he talks about he talks about all of these different stages for you to still take advantage of the technology. A lot of times it's not either or. You either are full-fledged into iPads and iPhones or what have you, or it's nothing. So he talks about the importance of reining in your devices, your use of devices, especially when it comes to social media. You don't necessarily need all of these apps on your phone all the time. You can use them strategically. And he talks about the importance of connection versus conversation. Conversation is me talking to somebody an extended period of time. Connection is me having 1,000 friends on Facebook. Well, maybe you're not meant to keep up with 1,000 people in your life. Maybe you're not meant to keep up. And these conversations are very shallow. It's just a like and it's just a comment. But for me to actually have real relationships with people, converse with people, develop social skills, a text message doesn't communicate body language. It doesn't communicate tone. And there's all of this, what's the word? There's all of this input that's coming from an actual conversation with a person that becomes very shallow when it's just converted to a message, converted to an emoji. And so with young people, teaching them how to be able to have conversations in full color, in HD, with people is something that's very, very important, because when they do that, they'll be able to actually have a conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Do you think there's a direct correlation between having that connection and having emotional intelligence?
100%. 100%. I mean, emotional intelligence comes from being able to actually interact with people.
That's right.
You learn empathy from your greatest source of learning empathy in your life is from your mother. And so when you have people who don't have these conversations with their families, they don't have their conversations with their extended families, where are they learning empathy from? Where are they learning social skills from? We lament young people not having social skills. Well, where are they supposed to learn them from?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a very interesting conversation, a very interesting topic. Where can people find out more about the course, and how can they sign up and follow the great work you're doing?
So the course itself is, if you want to access the course immediately, there's an online version, depending on where you are. So you go to almaghrib.org/mindful. So there's an online recording of the course. But I'm also touring the course, inshallah ta'ala. So if you go to almaghrib.org and you check out the seminars, inshallah ta'ala, you'll find it coming to a city near you, inshallah.
2027.
Depending on when this is released, of course. It might have been long retired. The course may not be in existence anymore.
Of course, 35 by Anyways, Sheikh Ammar, jazakallah khair for your time.
It's always a pleasure
Thank you very
to come and record with you.
Thank you very much. My dog, my brother, mashallah. Jazakallah khair for watching.
Hold on 1 second. We got to shout out. Listen, there's fashion and then there's Buna Muhammad, ladies and gentlemen.
Allah.
We need a course on the confidence that it takes for Buna,
Allah Akbar.
mashallah, tabarakallah, to come and just bright orange.
This. Are you colorblind? This is red.
There's no way that's red.
This is not red.
What is that?
Your shoes are red, and
This is what, like a burnt orange?
it's like
maybe?
a
I don't know.
red
And
orange.
don't let
Yeah,
him
it's a
play
red
with the
orange.
color on
It's
the
a
video
blood
later.
orange.
We're
and
gonna,
make this
we're gonna
into-
fix it and post it.
Yeah,
We're gonna make sure it's
Mashallah,
red.
this is orange,
We'll
man.
fix it, inshallah.
He's matching the carpet, mashallah.
It is
Go.
matching the
There you
carpet.
go. Jazakallah khair for joining us. And
Jazakallah khair.
inshallah, stay tuned for another episode of Muslimi Meets. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.